to the Brawling Pit. We talk about all things casual and kitchen table magic like Brawl and EDH. You are listening to episode 52. I'm Johnathan, and he is Jacob.
Ahoy.
Ahoy!
We're still on the Ahoy train.
We're still on the Ahoy train, yes.
Actually, no, it would be more appropriate to say the Ahoy ship.
Yes.
Yes, I'm still on the Ahoy ship. I don't know, maybe I'll get tired of it one day. Maybe I won't. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Alright, what are we doing today?
We are talking about tempo.
What do you mean, tempo?
Tempo is a Latin Italian word for time.
Uh-huh. Oh, are we playing like music now?
We are playing music. Can you hear it in the background?
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the lo-fi hip-hop that's playing through right now. You told me that it's your favorite song, which is why I chose this one.
Well, the point of BGM, background music, is like you're supposed to like forget about it. You know, it's there. And it's setting the mood.
I don't know about that. Like, you know, there's some music that's there to not only set the tone, set the mood, but like it elevates the whole entire scene.
Yeah, but that's not background music though. That's just music.
Alright.
Like background music is supposed to be like relatively simple, not complex. Just like it's in the background. That's the idea.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Okay.
Alright, so
So we're talking about tempo. What else? What about tempo? I thought we were a magic thing, and now we're not. Now we're gonna be like musicians.
well, so tempo is also a thing in card games. And a lot of times tempo basically translates to how much earlier you can play things before your opponent can. So one example of a deck that has really strong tempo that's running rampant right now is, well, and this will always be a true statement, is red deck wins.
Now, why is that a good example of tempo? Hold on, wait. Before we go further into this, you said tempo means time. And the definition of tempo you just gave, I feel like wasn't a real definition of tempo, but it was like a symptom of tempo.
Okay.
Can we even define tempo? That's a hard question.
I don't know, can you?
Actually, you know, honestly, I don't think you can define tempo.
Oh.
Because it's such an abstract topic.
Wow. So you're saying just because it's abstract, we're not defining anything?
Yeah, no, actually, that's true. We're not defining anything anymore.
Okay.
No, okay, I don't want to derail too far. But seriously, like, can we think of any better definition for tempo? You know, I think one thing we could start off with is that tempo and mana are really intertwined.
Oh yeah, they are. So if you want to learn more about mana, you can refer back to episode 16, where we talk a lot about mana.
Yeah,
like,
you learn how to...
everything you want to know about mana and more.
Everything from turning your land sideways to winning the game off your mana.
Yeah. Everything
And believe me,
there.
turning your land sideways is tough.
Oh yeah, man. Like,
Yeah,
there's
it's
so
tough.
many ways
And-
to do it. Some people do
Yeah.
it like 45 degrees. I don't really like that. I tend to
Yeah,
go,
exactly.
Like,
It's like
90 degrees all
how
the
many
way.
degrees do you turn your land?
Yeah, I tend to go 90 degrees so you get like the full value of the mana instead of like tapping 45. I mean, is that even tapped?
Well, can I be honest with you? I like to go the full 180 from like maximum confusion. I'm also a lands in front kind of guy.
Yeah. So about tempo.
Anyway, so tempo and mana, man, I feel like any definition that doesn't include mana with regards to card games is just incomplete. So for me, tempo is like how quickly can you expend the resources in your hand, cards, given the constraint of your other resource, mana. And you know, we also talked about cards too, and that was episode 25. This is just going to be the plug train, isn't it?
Yep.
But seriously, so, you know, all these three topics are just super, super interdependent on each other. I can't believe we talked about the other two without going into, like, taking so long on this one, you know?
I mean, that's why we're going in depth on this today. Is to complete the holy trinity of mana, card advantage, and tempo.
Right. And so, mana and tempo really intertwined, but the focus is on tempo for today. So, with tempo, as you said, red deck wins. Good example of tempo. Why is that?
Well, because you're flooding out your board, and your opponent just they don't have enough time to react to everything you're doing. If you're playing 3 cards a turn, and
But wait,
they're playing
what
a
do you
slow
mean-
deck,
What do you mean about time? Like, I mean, this isn't like an action game. They can take like as long as they want on their turn. What are you talking about?
they don't have enough resources to react to the things that you're doing. So if all your cards in your deck are 1 mana and you have 3 mana, that means you can play 3 things in that turn. Your opponent is just gonna stand there because they're looking at their grip full of 3 mana spells, and they are 3 mana, but they can only play 1 thing.
Oh, right. So, you're saying you could overwhelm your opponent with these itty bitty weenies,
Right.
These 1-drops, and all
Right.
they can do is just kill 1 at a time, but you're playing like 3 at a time.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's a great example of tempo. We did just assert this is a hard definition to like nail down, but I think that's a great example. Well, so we've established that the red deck wins player has the advantage when both players are constrained on mana.
Yep.
But what about if both players had 100 mana? Well, who would win then? And like all the other rules are the same. 1 card a turn. 7 card opener. Who would win if both players had like 100 mana?
I don't know. It depends on what's in their decks.
Well, red deck wins versus the control.
Control will probably win because they have enough resources and card draws.
This is something that I like to call bottlenecking. You might have heard it somewhere else and it's something different, but like bottlenecking for me is when, like, as we just said, the control player has 3 mana cards in their hand, but they can only play 1 at a time. They can't just like dump their hand. But like the red deck wins player, yes, he's also technically bottlenecked, but his bottleneck isn't as significant because he can empty his hand in like 2 turns. No, 3. 3 turns if you count the extra cards, but like probably about 2 or 3 turns. He can empty his hand and spend all the cards in his hand.
Right.
And generally, the player that spends more mana in a game and plays more cards probably win, right? Not always, but generally, right? Do you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely, I do agree. Because you're spending all your resources.
Yeah, and you ever have those times, like, when you end a game and you lost and you had cards in hand and you're like, man, only I had 1 more mana.
Oh yeah, man. So many times.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But that's an issue with tempo, right? If only you had a little bit more time.
Yep. It would have been great.
You have a degree in economics, right?
That's true.
So, what about opportunity costs? Can you tell us about that with regards to tempo? Let's say you're at 4 mana, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have, in your hand, you have a 1 mana card, a 2 mana card, another 2 mana card, and a 3 mana card. And you're on 4 mana. What can you tell me about the situation?
Hold on. So you have one mana card, you have one 3 mana card, and 2 mana cards.
Yeah. What can you tell me about the situation here? And you're on 4 mana.
Okay, you have 4 mana. The situation here is you don't have a 4 mana spell, so you can choose either. Well, it depends on what those cards are first off. But let's assume that they do similar things and they're not really removals. So let's say they're all creatures. In that case, you have the choice between playing two drops, or you can play a 3-drop and a 1-drop, or you can play a 2-drop and a 1-drop, or you can just play like one of any of those cards and leave the remaining mana up. So I think the best way to go here is actually go with the 3-drop and the 1-drop.
Now, why is that?
Because next turn, let's say you draw into a 3-drop, right? You can then choose between playing the 3-drop and one of the 2 drops, assuming that you have 5 mana. Versus if you play both 2-drops, now you're stuck with choosing one of the 3-drops and then playing a 1-drop. So you want to be able to spend all your mana as efficiently as possible. So the way to do it, both this turn and looking forward into the next turn is to play with your 3-drop and your.
While this is obviously very deep into theory, I mean, you can see this in real practice too. So I think playing the more restrictive card just seems to be better. In this case, relative to your total mana, the 3 mana is obviously more restrictive.
Yep.
Well, okay, what about mana acceleration though?
You mean like mana dorks or like ramps? You're talking about ramps.
Either or.
Okay. Ramping is good.
Is it though?
Yes, it is. Generally,
But, like,
the more mana you have at the end of the game, the more likely you're the winner.
Well, okay, what if you're like playing against an aggro deck and you're gonna spend your turn 3 ramping?
Oh, then you're dead.
That's a blunt way to put it. Can you tell us why?
Well, so ramping is sort of an investment. You're spending a turn to do nothing, absolutely nothing. You spend a card, you spend some mana to hope that the mana you will gain from the ramp will pay off in the future. So, for example, let's say you play Cultivate. That gets your land from your deck, comes to the battlefield tapped. You don't get to use the extra mana immediately. So, it's kind of slow, right? Like if you're playing against a fast deck, you basically spent 3 mana and didn't do anything to deal with their creatures or their aggression. So if you're playing as a slow deck, though, that extra mana can basically translate to 1 extra mana every single turn for you. Which is why like ramps like Roar from the Ashes is so good because they fetch the lands and the lands comes into play untapped.
Ooh.
And yeah.
So you get some back.
Right, you get some back. Which like that's one reason why cards like Roar from the Ashes are so good. But most of the ramp cards, because they put lands into play tapped, is actually a tempo lost in hopes of a big tempo swing in the future because you have more mana available to you than before.
I think that's a great way to put it. And, by looking at it as like an investment, what's your required ROI?
Generally, whenever I pay 1 mana, I will hope to get like 16 mana back. That's my target ROI. You can talk to my board of directors if you have any problems with that.
But like, what about mana dorks though? So we gave the example of Cultivate. What about mana dorks though? So, Elvish Mystic.
Oh, that's a good card. It can block.
But it's also mana acceleration.
It is also mana acceleration. You're correct.
So Cultivate is 3 mana, but Elvish Mystic is 1. Yet they both net you an extra mana. So why would we ever play Cultivate over like Elvish Mystic?
Well, I think Cultivate is a bad example here because it also draws you a land. Let's say like Rampant Growth, right? Rampant Growth is 2 mana and then it fetches the land and puts it in play tap.
Okay. So like, why would we ever play Rampant Growth instead of just Elvish Mystic?
Really depends on what format you are in. But in formats like Commander, where land destruction is really, really frowned upon, Rampant Growth will get you a land that most likely won't be destroyed. Whereas Elvish Mystic, no one gives a flying thing about people killing your creatures. So your Elvish Mystic being destroyed wouldn't gain you any political advantage. Oh crap! Did we just mention political advantage?
Yeah, we did.
We're gonna leave that in a future episode. it's the fourth flick of the chair, and we're not gonna worry about that right now.
Okay.
Yep. So like Rampant Grove will get you a land, which is a lot harder to destroy than Elvish Mystic.
In your opinion, do you think Planeswalkers count? as some sort of investment of mana.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, why?
You're spending mana to do one thing, and that thing is usually overcosted for the amount of mana that you paid for that one turn. However, the longer your Planeswalker lives, the more you're getting out of those, like, you're getting more out of those mana that you're playing.
That's because... Why? Well, why is that?
Because they lift.
Well...
Let's use an example, right?
Is it because the Planeswalkers don't have a mana cost to activate their abilities?
Right. Planeswalkers do not require a mana cost to activate their abilities, yes.
So you get to keep using that same effect over and over. I mean, assuming it lives, you know?
Right.
But it's a one-time mana cost.
It is a one-time mana cost, and it keeps doing the same thing over and over again. So, one of the example, let's use an example of the... So if you're listening to this podcast in the future, you can just think of any other Planeswalkers. But my example will be Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. It's 3 white, blue. So 5 mana for 4 loyalty Planeswalker. And let's only talk about the plus ability. Plus 1 is draw a card at the beginning of the next end step. Untap 2 lands. That's usually not worth 5 mana.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
However,
it seems a little loose.
Yeah, however, landing Teferi under the battlefield allows you to do that turn after turn, assuming that Teferi lives. To a point where if you can actually ultimate Teferi, that's well worth the 5 mana you have paid for.
Well, what about protecting your investment? To what extent do you think we should go to protect your Planeswalkers? Because you're going to spend more tempo on that.
Yes, you are. Some Planeswalkers, they protect themselves, just by having their own abilities. But sometimes you will have to spend some resources to protect the Planeswalkers. It really boils down to the cost benefit, and you want to figure out whether or not the Planeswalker staying on the battlefield will gain you enough tempo advantage compared to the amount of resources that you spend to protect it. So, if you don't think the Planeswalker is going to do anything for you in the future, it's probably not worth protecting.
But these Planeswalkers are heroes of the lore, and you're just going to let them die.
Yeah, it's better than you dying.
Wow. You know, I feel like we may have talked about this before, but you know how in the lore, technically the player is a Planeswalker?
Yeah.
And, we have Hero's Downfall and Vraska's Contempt.
Uh-huh.
And they all target Planeswalkers, but for some reason, when I try to target my opponent, this annoying judge comes over and says, stop hitting your opponent with the card.
Yeah, your opponent's a player.
But they are a Planeswalker.
Yeah, in the lore, but not in the rules.
I feel like they should just change that.
I don't know about that.
Just change it so that players aren't referred to as Planeswalkers in the lore anymore. Call them, Dimension Walkers or something. I don't know.
That sounds pretty terrible. Let's not do that.
I mean, Planeswalkers also sound pretty dumb.
Yes, it does.
But, the reason why nobody says that it's dumb is because it's stuck for 15 plus years now.
Yeah, it's actually really cringy if you think about it.
So, if we just keep using the word Dimension Walkers...
That also sounds cringy.
Yeah, but if we just keep using it and we keep saying it for 15 years and it sticks, then nobody's going to say anything about it.
It's very cringy.
Yeah, but we're going to do it. So from now on, we're Dimension Walkers.
From now on, Jacob is the Dimension Walker.
Why am I the only one?
Because I don't want to be one. Sounds terrible.
But you're already a Planeswalker. I'm going to throw a Hero's Downfall at your face next time. Do you know the card Gataxian Probe?
Yes, I do. It's banned in Modern and Legacy.
Why do you reckon that card was worthy of a ban?
Because for no mana, you can look at your opponent's hand and it draws your card back.
But, I mean, it costs you life total.
Yeah. so.
Well, like, why is life total like different from mana in like with regards to tempo?
Because if you end the game with 1 life, it's the same thing as ending the game with 15,000 life. Except one is more flashy than the other.
That would also make for a better story.
Yep.
But like, what about, you know, you're not restricted on how much life you can lose in one turn.
No, you're not.
But like with mana, you know, barring like untap effect, you can only spend it one time.
Right.
How would you balance Gitaxian Probe? Like, let's say you were trying to balance Gitaxian Probe for Modern, and you still wanted it to be played. You wanted it to be strong, but not overpowered.
I'm not a developer or a designer.
You don't even want to take a stab at it?
I'm not a developer or a designer.
I think Gitaxian Probe... It's a tough spot, you know? Because, like, if you made it 1 mana...
It's already 1 mana.
Well, I mean, like, if you actually made it cost, like, you had to pay a mana... I don't know. I don't know if it'd get played.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you'd play it.
Probably
Yeah.
won't. But Phyrexian mana is such a powerful mechanic. In fact, I think Mark Rosewater admitted that was a mistake.
Dude, energy was a mistake. The only reason why they balanced energy was because they made it, like, you know, relatively hard to get.
I wouldn't say energy is hard to get. It's so easy.
Well, I mean, like, okay. Energy, you have to play, like, specific cards. You know, you can't just, like, passively get energy or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, energy... Not that... Okay, so I'm not saying energy is a broken mechanic. But, like, energy has, in theory, the potential to face the same problems as Phyrexian mana.
Yeah. I'll say so. Because it's resources that is not mana. So you're getting additional resources. You're getting additional value of something other than mana.
And, you know, like... I think the big deal with that, though, is you're not restricted on how much you can spend in a turn.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, I guess there were cards that said you can only activate this, like, once per turn or whatever. But, like, I'm not, that's not what I'm getting at, you know? It's...
Yeah, you know what's, like, the most powerful tempo swing?
What? What's the most powerful tempo swing?
Cards like Ad Nauseam.
Oh...
Because you're spending only 5 mana. You draw your whole deck, and you can probably play some of those cards for free.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that deck in Modern?
Unfortunately, I am.
Can you explain what they do?
So, it's been a while, but I'll do my best. Ad Nauseam is an old deck, and I'm sure you can still find people playing it. And basically what Ad Nauseam did was you cast a card called Angel's Grace, so you couldn't lose the game, or Phyrexian on life, one of the two. And you play Ad Nauseam, where you draw your entire deck, and then you finally cast Lightning Storm. And Lightning Storm is a 1 red instant. Lightning Storm deals X damage to any target, where X is 3 plus the number of charged counters on Lightning Storm. Discard a land card, put 2 counters on Lightning Storm. You may choose any target for it. Any player may activate this ability, but only if Lightning Storm is on the stack. And basically how it works is, because you have your entire deck in your hand, you pitch enough cards for Lightning Storm to target your opponent. And if your opponent tries to get cheeky, and then they like, oh, I have a land card, I'm gonna pitch and change the target to you. You say, I'm going to discard my other land card because I have my entire deck in my hand. And you change it back to them. So that is how Ad Nauseam won. So can tempo exist without mana?
Yes.
Well, I mean, like, in regards to, you know, our card game.
Yes.
Let me rephrase that. Can tempo exist? Can our concept of tempo exist with... can our concept of tempo exist without the presence of restricted mana?
Yes.
Okay, well, how?
There are a lot of cards that a lot of removals are essentially tempo spells. Because let's say your opponent plays a 6-mana creature, and if you spend 1 mana to exile it, giving them some life with Source to Plowshare, that's kind of a tempo swing.
Okay, and it's with regard to life now instead of mana.
Well, you first off, you spend 1 mana to deal with a 6-mana creature. Number 2, the life doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, the question was if a restricted mana as we know now were not a thing. So basically, you have infinite mana. Can tempo exist? I think that tempo probably exists, even in the absence of mana. And when I say absence of, I mean like everybody has infinite mana. I think tempo still exists, and that is because, creatures have summoning sickness.
Okay.
And you only get 1 combat phase a turn, normally.
Normal.
And you only get to draw 1 card a turn, normally.
Normal.
Yeah.
Right.
So, even without mana, I think tempo still exists.
I see. So you're saying you're trying to make the argument that card advantage and having hasty creatures also contribute to tempo advantage.
Yeah, hasty creatures are definitely a tempo swing, because when you play a creature, you have to wait a whole turn before you can use it, barring weird other effects where it's like, oh, you can tap a creature and the tap ability isn't on, the summoning sick creature.
Yeah.
But barring those kind of effects, yeah, you have to wait a full turn. So hasty creatures definitely are a tempo swing, but it's not because intrinsically you get to attack. It's because your opponent also has a life total that they have to worry about, normally.
Okay.
I think if you take away life total, and you take away mana, well, first of all, I don't think you could really take away life total because, Magic needs a life total, part of the game. But, let's say you put your opponent, went off with Absent and Company or whatever, right? And they're at, 1 million life.
Yeah.
Do they care if they tank those hits from you?
They probably don't.
So, if we take away the meaning of life, pun intended, kind of, and we take away mana's restrictions, so everybody has infinite mana, does tempo exist?
Yes, it does. There are still ways for you to win the game without manipulating life total.
So, but I mean, you have infinite mana.
Sure.
So why would that matter then?
Well, one example is since you have infinite mana, one way to get a huge tempo swing, actually just win the game this turn, is play Lab Mania and you draw your whole deck.
But, alright. So you're saying the key to winning that tempo battle is actually a card advantage?
Yeah.
So far, we've asserted...
Life doesn't matter, and mana doesn't matter.
Yep.
Card advantage will get you a tempo.
So what you're saying is that... I'm going to say that. So, we've asserted that tempo can exist in the absence of mana, life total. What if cards didn't matter? I think I know we're getting real abstract here, but in the absence, I think you need at least one of those. I don't think tempo could exist without at least one of those restrictions.
Sure.
Can you think of a counter argument to that? I can't, because I can't. I cannot.
Well, if you have,
so there's no life total. Or at least the life total doesn't matter.
Sure.
Everybody draws their entire deck. Everybody has infinite mana. Does tempo really exist?
Yes, it does, because there's still ways to get incremental value without using any either mana or life or anything as a resource. You can still get incremental value out of
what's the point of value
if the value wins you the game, then that's the point of value.
But what's the point of the value if you like? What kind of value could you generate that's meaningful in a game where the life total doesn't matter? You draw your entire deck, and for some reason you're not like. Let's say you have an invisible platinum angel. I don't know, and you have infinite mana. What kind of value could you possibly generate in that kind of game?
Well, I'll say that. So one thing that we haven't talked about is taking extra turns. So if you play a card called Nexus of Fate, then all of a sudden it gives you a lot of value because it makes your opponent's scoop. You have infinite mana, you have infinite card. You just keep casting Nexus of Fate over and over again, and your opponent eventually they'll get sick of it and then they'll scoop. And then you win the game even though they have invisible platinum angel.
Well, I mean, like, let's say both players are playing Lab Maniac, right? So there is a way to win the game. That's the point. But the life total doesn't matter. You draw your entire deck, or you know what I mean, right? And you have infinite mana. Tempo still exists. I'm going to assert. I know I just said it. I said it differently earlier, and I'm retracting that now. Tempo does exist in the absence of those three things. And in something called the first mover advantage, the first move advantage, like we see in chess. Because in a game with Magic, where infinite mana, you can draw your own entire deck, life total doesn't matter. Because of how Magic is played, and you can only play creatures on your main phase, whoever goes first is going to win.
Sure.
And I mean, that's literally the definition of tempo. Like, someone is in chronological order, someone is going first.
Yep.
So surprisingly, we have asserted tempo does not require any of the things we just talked about to exist. So why did we just talk about them? Well, even though mana is not intrinsically dependent on those three things, we could just say, well, they're part of the game. You can't just like magically take them away. I mean, that's kind of like a cop-out answer, you know? Because I mean, it is true, but it's not a very good answer. I mean, do you agree, or do you disagree? Like, that's not like I don't think that's a great answer.
Well, because it is very difficult for you to grasp the concept of tempo without looking at the other elements of the game. So yes, like knowing there's a tempo advantage, helps you feel better, right? But without looking at the other elements such as card mana or life advantage, it's really tough for you to see why tempo is important.
I would argue that it's tempo's invisible. I think that was like one of the first things we said, right? Mm-hmm. You can't see it directly. So like it's almost as if what I would assert is that tempo, you can only see it through the other three restrictions.
Sure.
Right? I mean, even though we just said tempo does not need them to exist, but we can't see tempo, but we can only see the symptoms of the other restrictions happening, and thus we can make an observation about the state of tempo in the game. And even the other one, the example with Lab Maniac and who goes first, with all the other three restrictions lifted, the symptom that we're judging on tempo is who wins. Who wins first?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably the best reason that I can muster of why those other three things matter if we just asserted that tempo doesn't need them.
Yep.
So we just went really, really, really deep into theory. We just played this thought experiment where this fictional game had no mana restriction, no card restriction, no life restriction. Why does any of that matter? Why is any of that informative, meaningful to like a real game of Magic where we do have those restrictions?
Well, because if there's a tempo difference between two players when nothing else matters, that means you'll be able to see the effects of tempo advantage even more without all restriction. And you'll be able to capitalize on those tempo advantage more if you can actually see those.
What do you think of bounce spells?
Bounce spells are good tempo swing.
But at what cost?
At the cost of playing blue.
Okay, that is a pretty big cost. You do have to play blue for that. But like, isn't that like a net card loss though?
It is. Also, in any other colors, you can just remove something.
Yeah, but they can play it again though.
Yes, they
It's
can.
it's not a net card loss.
Sure. However, sometimes that one turn is all you need. That one bounce is all you need to win the game.
And you know, as we talked about with virtual card advantage, if that turn is all you need to win the game, then yeah, I mean it doesn't matter. And that bounce spell may as well be a removal spell.
Yep, exactly. So I hope this episode was informative. I know we went like really, really deep into the topic, like it went super theoretical. But let us know what you think. What do you think about tempo? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think it's important for a game? Let us know on our social media. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Brawling Pit. You can find us on Reddit at r/BrawlingPit. Email us at brawlingpitmtg@gmail.com, or you can visit our official website at brawlingpit.com. As always, I've been Johnathan, and he has been Jacob. Thanks for listening.
Hey, so you know who won the recent PT?
Who did?
I hope I don't butcher this name, but Autumn Burchett.
So she beat Reed?
Yep.
She beat Reed Duke?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I mean, unfortunate for Reed because I was rooting for him, but like, hey, I mean, well deserved. It was a well deserved one. I'm not gonna say that Reed was cheating or anything. No.
No.
Well deserved.
Is it the first female that actually won a PT?
I think so.
Wow.
I think so. And it's about time. We spent way too long not having that happen. You want to know what's funny about Autumn's win today?
What's funny about that?
Autumn played mono blue tempo.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
Yep. So let's take it down here, right?
Yep.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
We're doing it. What about mono blue tempo makes it a tempo deck?
It bounces
Oh
things
my
and counter
God.
things.
He didn't get a thing.
Basically, make sure your opponent can't play magic. You're playing small creatures to get things on the board. You're holding up mana to make sure your opponent can remove your creatures or, destroy them or play anything that's useful against you. And you just win the game.
And these are really weak cards in
Yeah.
the end game, right?
Oh, I wouldn't say a 1 mana 5/5 flying is weak, man.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean that's a pretty good card, but like, okay, most of these cards are pretty bad in the end game, though.
A 1
Right.
mana 5/5 flying
I
is
said
bad.
most of these cards are pretty bad in the end game, right? So like the 1 mana 5/5 flyer, pretty good,
Yeah.
but like, most of these others probably aren't that good.
A lot of them are actually scaled pretty well. Like Tempest Gen is really powerful in late game.
Yeah, Tempest Gym is pretty good,
Yeah.
but like, I would say that Merfolk Trickster is probably not that good in the end game.
Tricksters is enough to, it's good early game, and late game is probably enough to tap your opponent's biggest blocker.
Yeah, but like this, I'm talking about like the theoretical end game. Where you have like 100 men or whatever.
Sure.
So like compared to your opponent, you're probably losing.
Yeah, but it's you will have enough time to beat them down before anything actually.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? Like
Yeah.
I love these kind of decks. I'm not sure. I think I've said this before. Mono blue devotion versus Esper or
Sure.
blue white control
Sure.
back in the day.
Uh-huh.
That matchup was entirely tempo
Okay.
because mono blue against a deck with like a million pieces of removal and sweepers and Sphinx's Revelation.
Yep.
Like, there's no way you're winning that game unless like you make sure that they can't play enough spells on time.
Yeah,
So
and this it's actually not an easy deck to pilot because a lot of
no,
times you need to know what's the right spell to counter, and that's not straightforward.
yeah, and like with bounce spells too, right? So you can't just be like, I'm gonna bounce everything willy nilly because then
Yeah.
you're gonna lose the game because like, oh, I actually need to bounce something and I ran out of bounce spells, and then that's really easy to go wrong with, right? And
Yeah.
you can be like, yeah, I thought I was just supposed to bounce everything, and then you get to end like mid game and you're like, oh crap, I
Right.
need to bounce that, and I'm like, oh, I only spent like 3 bounce spells.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really easy to go wrong with. So it's I would say these kind of tempo decks are probably the hardest to play.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But congratulations to Autumn. Very well deserved win.
Congratulations, and sorry, Reed Duke, you didn't make it this time.
Reed Duke made a top 4 finish. Very respectable.
Okay.
And LSV was here too.
Yeah.
And sad to say that he also lost in the finals, but that is what it is. No, and that's not to take away from Autumn either. Great win. It was such a great tournament to watch.
I have been watching it, man.
It makes me really excited to see how it's going to pan out with MTG Arena.
Yeah, I wonder how the meta is gonna shape up after Autumn won with this deck, because I already run into this deck every single day in Magic Arena. So
Oh, that's going to be horrible.
yes, it's actually pretty horrible. So
I'm not. It's a good deck, but that's why it's horrible.
yeah, it's definitely horrible. Hopefully some people build more decks to actually beat this deck, and then we don't have to deal with this monstrosity anymore. We'll have new monsters to deal with, like Nexus of Fate. Oh wait, it's banned.
Not if you're best of 3, though.
Not if you're best of 3. Yep. That's why I don't play best of 3. Like second best of 1. Jesus.